W-2 versus self-employed.
Yeah.
What are some of the pros and cons? There's so much of maybe an overemphasis, at least in the entrepreneur bros and sisters who are kind of like, man, all that, you got to be an entrepreneur. It's the only path, but it's also really kind of not what the numbers show, and it may be kind of overrated. What are your thoughts on this?
I love this question because 70% of Americans, according to recent data, want to be self-employed. Okay, they want to work for themselves, but only 6% are. And so there's a massive gap between what people say they want versus what they're actually doing. Now, there's a whole host of reasons why, but I'm going to tell you that, and the data doesn't show this, but I've just coached 10,000 plus people. And I can tell you with great confidence that the reason that most people aren't pursuing it is because it's way harder than they initially realized. And ultimately, they've made a decision to say, I actually don't want this. So what is it that they want? What's behind the data? I think what they want is freedom. They want autonomy. I mean, this is the human spirit. So you asked the question, the pros and cons of working for yourself. So based in the shadow of that data, let's go back to your question. Well, the pros are you work for yourself. The con is you work for yourself. Yeah. And this notion that I can be totally free and do whatever I want with my time is not a complete thought, because you know this very well. I know this because I ran my own company for 5 years. I can do whatever I want with my schedule. But when I am the paycheck and there is no one else to rely on and I'm driving it, well, then all of a sudden I'm never off. It's very hard to turn your brain off. You were sharing so transparently yesterday over lunch of the pressures that you were feeling. And interestingly enough, the pressures from success. Mm-hmm. I wish the audience could hear that. I'm sure they've heard some of it. But I was struck by a reminder that you were sharing some of the turbulent times you were going through as a result of success, not failure. So that's the other side of it. The pros are, there's no lid on you. The con is there's no lid on you. Mm. And this idea that if I go start my own thing and work for me, I'm going to be completely happy is not true. It's true for some, not true for everyone. So the coaching advice I give on this issue is there needs to be a deep problem, a problem that's deep in your soul that you want to solve. And so all of a sudden there becomes this beautiful marriage between the problem and the solution. So the reason you got into what you do is because ultimately I think I see problems out here in this space, and I think I have the solution or solutions and can be a part of it. And so all of a sudden the marriage between I see a problem that I think I can help solve, and I actually have a solution and I want to provide that solution. When you get to that place, now you're at ground zero for being an entrepreneur and working for yourself. Because it's deep. So you're going to be willing to suffer. I use the word passion a lot, as you know, when I talk about work you love. But this is not just a romantic emotion. In fact, the root word of passion in the Latin is pati, and I love it because it means to suffer. And you were, again, talking about your beautiful kids, and I've followed your journey for a long time. I've been through some of that journey. My wife and I went through that journey as well. And I just know, Sean, sitting here with you, that you would suffer all the way to death for your wife and kids. It's not in question. That's passion. And if you look at the great stories, and I love to read biographies of people, of entrepreneurs, leaders, great men and women from history. And I'm going to tell you something. Every one of those people had a burning passion. They did suffer. They suffered mightily. And yet they kept going. So I wanted to take it a little deeper than just, I want to work for myself. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I think you first have to ask the question, I'm going to boil this back down practically. Do I just want freedom and autonomy? And then what does that look like in other areas of my life? And what I think is the professional solution, maybe it's not. Maybe it's some boundaries. Maybe it's better habits. Maybe it's busting it in your day job and getting free of debt. Mm. And the freedom that comes from having no debt may be the answer to the freedom that every human longs for. Jefferson learned this from John Locke. and all the great classical thinkers like Cicero and Epictetus, and it was the pursuit of happiness. And I think ultimately that just means free to live the life I want to live. So what's driving this desire for freedom? If it is free to pursue this problem with this solution, then yes, you are cut out to work for yourself. If it's not, then don't go for it, because you're going to be like the huge amount of people who say they want to be self-employed, but at the end of the day, they've tested it or it's just too scary, and there's not enough passion to move them from fear forward.
I love this conversation, because what I think one of the opportunities here is to maybe flip the narrative that you have to go all the way until self-employed.
Yeah, right.
And where if you can tap into these places of self-awareness, basically 100% of people listening to this podcast have a YouTube channel or want to start a YouTube channel. But the narrative might not be that you go all in and carry all the weight and have to do all the pressure and it turns into like this small or big business, but that I think there's this massive opportunity to have a W-2 you love, and to have an outlet for a side hustle. And there was actually a study I saw, there was an article that said our side hustle is part of the American dream. And according to a Zapier study, 1/3 of Americans have a side hustle. At least 50% of millennials have a side hustle. The average side hustle earns an extra $12,689 per year. And I kind of want to come back to that, because we start looking at YouTube. You may not be a YouTube millionaire, most likely not.
Right.
But what are the practicals? There's all kinds of side hustle opportunities, but leaning into that. 5 to 20 hours a week is how much they spend on an extra gig. Biggest motivators for a side hustle is more personal freedom and extra income. And men are more likely than women to engage in a side hustle. So what do you think are the opportunities of starting a side hustle, laying kind of the foundation that you really got to count the cost? Do you see the problem? Do you have the passion to really go all in on your own thing, versus what you've been saying in terms of millennials, your show, everything you're doing, of just the opportunity to maybe have a very fulfilling side hustle? Imagine being in the room with some of today's top personal brands, video marketing experts, and online entrepreneurs. This year, you will have that chance at growwithvideolive.com. Grow with Video Live is the #1 conference for building your personal brand and growing your business with online video. This year's speakers include Dave Ramsey, Pat Flynn, Shalene Johnson, the Think Media team, and many more. So go to growwithvideolive.com to get your ticket today.
Well, you set this up beautifully. Let's just talk about the reality right now. Let's talk about money. Forget about passion and meaning. Let's put that on the side for a moment. The reality is we are in an American economy right now where inflation is not abating. It's not slowing down. And everybody needs more money right now. I don't care who you're talking to. They go, I need more money. Like, my combo meal costs more. My kids' tuition costs more. Vacations cost more. I mean, you just go down the line, and the media, major media is reporting this. So you have to ask the question, first and foremost, is the side hustle short-term or is it long-term? All right, you know me, I love questions. I think questions simplify everything. So ask yourself right now, if you're watching this or listening, is my side hustle a short-term solution or is it long-term? Okay, let's break it down. Short-term, I love the data you shared. Okay, you talk about if you go out on the street, you and I took a camera crew out on the street in Nashville today, and we walked around and I said, hey, let me ask you a question. This is my guy, Sean. The guy's a YouTube expert. If you could make $2,000 a month extra just on YouTube because of my guy, Sean, would you do it? What do you think the answer would be out of 10 people?
I think they'd say
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
If we just kept it to, you do whatever the crap you want to do on YouTube.
Yeah.
And Sean's going to get you to $2,000 a month. You're not going to be a millionaire. You are going to be a household name, but you're going to make $24,000 extra income this year. I'm telling you, if you just keep it to not being an influencer, not being famous, and you just go, this is a side hustle I can do at my house, and I can make $2,000 extra a month, I'm telling you right now, people would go, sign me up. So that's okay. That's honorable.
Totally.
That's freaking great. In fact, I'll be honest with you. If you look at the side hustles that people have, the hottest side hustles right now are usually some type of a professional skill that you're freelancing with. So maybe you're a copywriter, as an example. Maybe you do coding. You know, you can do very well depending on what kind of skill you have. And then there's the driving in the car, the Uber Eats. Now, understand, there's nothing wrong with that. It's honorable work. But you think about the time and effort, the wear and tear on your car versus doing it on YouTube, it's an easy exchange. So the point that I'm making is you first ask the question, is this the short term? I just want more income to get out of debt, have some margin, go on our 21st anniversary trip, whatever it is, short term. Great. That's awesome. That's more jingle in the pocket. Okay. So, but if the thing is, well, the answer is I'd like to see this go from side hustle to full-time dream or work for me. So if it's long-term. Okay, great. So now our focus needs to be, let's crush it in the day job because that's our foundation, that's our stability. And let's take the pressure off the side hustle. If it's even if it's short term, it's like, well, there's no pressure. If it doesn't work, I shut it down and I go drive Uber or whatever the business is. But if it's long term, I want people, Sean, to take the pressure off of it and go, this isn't going to be my main income for a while. This is going to take some time. I'm just going to do this because it's an outlet. It's a creative outlet. It is a way for me to express myself. It is a way for me to keep hold of my identity. If I'm over here in this day job and it's like in a cube and I'm doing TPS reports, but I get to come home and 8 to 10 hours a week, I'm doing this thing online. I'm creating. I love that you talk about creators. I think every person on the planet's a creator. Some are more creative than others, but I think it feeds the soul. And so I want to encourage your audience to say, yeah, keep doing it, because if nothing else, it could be the thing that keeps your heart engaged and keeps it alive as you begin to transition. And so we take the pressure off. So now we're just doing the YouTube channel for you. You're doing it for you. You love the content. You care about the content. And this is a big old world out there. There's a lot of people out there that like the same stuff you like. And I think you make it about the joy of creating. Then I think you've taken the pressure off. And now we give ourselves a chance to let the Seans of the world teach me. And I keep putting it out there and I keep putting it out there and I keep putting it out there. And all of a sudden 10,000 hours becomes really approachable. And now I can do it well. And so I think you have to go, hey, if this thing turns into my full-time income, woohoo, right? Or my Mickey mug, oh boy, but if it doesn't and it's kicking off 500 a month or 1,500 a month or 5,000 a month, then great. And I want to give a quick example of this. You probably know this couple, but I interviewed this couple on a Zoom call just to learn about them about 2 years ago. And they started flea marketing and they were flipping stuff, right? Flea market flip kind of stuff. They would go to yard sales and all that stuff. So anyway, they got good at it and got really good at it.
Yeah.
And it was to save money and get out of debt. Well, they got so good at it that they got out of debt and they were making really good money. I think they were making about $400,000 a year. So the guy, the husband, comes home one day and he's always messing around with video cameras and stuff. He's like, I think I'm going to create a YouTube channel and I'm just going to tell people how we did it. Well, that blew up. And they were making over $1 million a year on YouTube, telling people how they made $400,000 a year. Mm-hmm. He didn't go all in. He just turned the camera on and went, well, today we went and bought a stuffed rabbit and found out it was worth about $20. We got it for $2, sold it for $15, and blah, blah. And people are like, oh, I want to do that. Mm. So they created content that they cared about and it ended up helping a lot of people. And now they're millionaires. And I think that journey needs to just happen organically, especially as a content creator. Keep doing content that moves you, makes you laugh, makes you cry, makes you angry, whatever it is. If it moves your heart, your audience will eventually find you.
If you enjoyed this podcast and are ready for some deep dive YouTube strategy, just go to thinkmasterclass.com to get access to my 1-hour on-demand YouTube strategy class. You'll be looking over my shoulder as I share my best tips, and you can watch it on demand right now at thinkmasterclass.com.